Today we're covering part 2 of white belt submissions. I got a few good ones for you guys. I'm excited to jump in. Let's hit it. Number 1 on the list, the slot machine. And shout out to my little brother Brian, who's a black belt, who taught me this years ago, and it's remained one of my favorites ever since. You will see that this is kind of similar to a triangle. He's gonna start in my guard. I'm going to launch my hips up, and I'm getting one leg up under his armpit and the other leg up over his shoulder. Now, what we're doing differently here is that my hips are kind of cocked off to the same side that the leg goes over his shoulder. From here, I'm trapping his elbow in the pit of my hip, okay? And once this elbow is trapped, what I can do is I can grab onto his hand, palm facing him, and I'm going to laterally rotate his arm towards his shoulder. As I'm doing this, I'm hipping into the elbow. This is gonna create a lot of braking pressure in his shoulder. So when you guys are practicing this on each other, be nice and safe. Obviously in a tournament or maybe a self-defense scenario, full send this thing, but be good to your training partner because this does get tight very quickly. I really like this one because you can hit it from a failed triangle attempt. It's not that complex, it's pretty easy to do, and it's very, very effective. Plus, it's not putting you in a bad position if you mess it up. So if you haven't tried this one yet, give it a try. I think you'll like it. And I just want to take a quick second to give my sponsor, X Martial, a shout out. X Martial does more for the community than any other brand out there. They sponsor over 300 athletes of all levels, and they even work with kids to help them on their martial arts journey. They've given away over $10,000 in gear in 2023. So if you want to look as good as me and probably even better, get over to X Martial now and start your shopping. They're always running some kind of a deal. You can also use my discount code IRONWILL to save yourself some money. All right, well, I think that covers it. Let's jump back to the video. Number 2 is the head and arm choke. Now, I like to show this one because there's multiple ways to do it. It's very effective, it's very strong, it's easy to do, and again, it doesn't put you in a bad spot if you mess it up. So in this example, we're starting in side body. He takes his outside arm and frames on my face. What I like to do is C-clamp on the back of that elbow, and I like to push his arm past my head. Now look what I do with my shoulders. I'm also opening my shoulders at the same time. If I don't do this, I'm essentially pushing his hand into my inside shoulder, and that's gonna create resistance, which will make this a bit more difficult to hit. It's probably also telegraphing my movements a little bit. So as I C-clamp the back of his elbow, I twist my shoulders, allowing an opening for his arm to flow past. Pay attention to what I do with my head here. As I get his arm past my face, I use my head like a third arm, and I use that to kind of catch the back of his tricep area. This traps his arm in this position, allowing me to gable grip behind his shoulder. Now from here, I will go knee on belly. And there's a couple different ways that you can slide past this position because you need to be on the other side of his body to complete this. You can technically also complete this in the mount position, but it feels a lot stronger when you can get to the opposite side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to windshield wiper my leg that's in the knee on belly position off as I windshield wiper the outside leg onto his belly. Once I've switched legs on his waist or his stomach area, I slide my body off to the opposite side. From here, I drop my hips down and back. I establish a gable grip, right? And as I begin to initiate this choke, I'm pulling with my lower arm, right? I'm pulling my lower arm back, I'm dropping my hips, and I'm pushing pressure with my body into his shoulder. When I combine all 3 of these things at the same time, it creates a very powerful choke. Again, showing you this one because it's not that complex, it's easy to do, it's low risk, high reward, right? If we mess it up, we're not in a bad position, which is what I'm all about. I make mistakes and I don't want my opponent to capitalize on those mistakes, which is what Jiu Jitsu is. You wait for them to make a mistake and then you capitalize on that. So this is nice and safe. I think you guys will like it. If you're not using it yet, I really think you're missing out because it's one of the best out there. I love this one. Last but not least, the rear naked choke. Now, most people know this choke even coming into Jiu Jitsu, mainly because the UFC has made it so popular. but there is a nice little trick that you can do to really increase your completion rate of this submission. What you'll see the untrained do is once they're on their back and they're in the seatbelt position, they try to shoot the choke immediately from here. And what normally will happen is your opponent's gonna grab your wrist and grab your hand and prevent that choking hand from being able to reach up and complete that submission. Well, instead of rushing for that choke right away, what you can do is reach over and grab the shoulder. And if you have to finger walk to that shoulder, that's fine. In this example, my helper does have wider shoulders, so I will finger walk up to his shoulder. Once I have a grip on that shoulder, I'm squeezing in and up. Watch as I raise the shoulder, almost like he's saying, I don't know. Once I'm in that position, my arm has a much smaller distance to travel to complete that choke. Also, it's much more difficult for my opponent to grab my wrist and my hand, preventing me from completing the choke. I see rear naked choke attempts all the time, but I rarely see anyone below purple belt trying this shoulder trick, right? Once you start incorporating this into your game, it will take the completion rate of your rear naked choke sky high. If you're not doing this yet, definitely practice it. It doesn't put you in any kind of a risk to get submitted. It doesn't put you in a bad place at all. It's just one little tiny trick that provides big results. So give that a try. I think you'll really like it. And if you guys have any more submissions you think you should be knowing as a white belt, drop them in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys are working. So with that being the end of the video, you know how we like to end them. Sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.